representative of a particular viewpoint.
Yeah, so I'm pretty comfortable being in the background unless I'm needed on certain questions and called on.
Okay, thank you, Paula.
Well, we also met yesterday and decided that Joe Smith from Loaves and Fishes and Bob Erlenbush from the Regional Coalition to End Homelessness, as myself would be principals, but also we have all other members may have comments that they want to make at the appropriate time.
Sure, yeah, I'm just urging people to be conscious if we end up with 15 people on the call and these things, one tends to forget that the press is sitting there waiting, to ask questions. And if it goes on the mayor has something at 11, we'll simply run out of time. So if people could just be cognizant of that, that would be helpful. If someone has the burning need, that's fine. But if people could just kind of designate primarily to a few people, that would be fantastic. But it may be that not that many folks come on anyway, so.
And Mary Lynn, the blog post is connected and live, so just FYI.
Thank you.
How's everyone's weekend?
Good, Darrell. How about yours?
Hot.
Hey, I'm a great grandmother.
Congratulations.
Yesterday.
You became a great grandmother, Paula?
Yes, yesterday. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's fabulous. Where does the baby live? Where?
South Sacramento.
South Sacramento. Wonderful. Everybody doing okay?
Yeah.
That's great.
He's like 21 inches tall and he's a big boy.
Big boy. And who's this little one with Crystal?
It's my daughter, Scarlett.
Hi, Scarlett. Hi. How old are you?
She's shy. She's 7.
She's 7. Wow.
You wish you were 8.
And now I got a couple colleagues that are going to join us here too. Are they Alan Warren and Steve Hansen and Eric Guetta?
They have not joined yet.
Okay.
Someone will, of course, have difficulty.
Well, there was quite a few invitations kind of bouncing around.
Well, those ones that come from Zoom are really confusing because they go in your the panelist invites because they generally they come from Zoom, not from us. It's just super confusing. There's usually somebody struggling at the end to get on.
Yep. I can follow up with the council members really quick, and then I'll start letting in the press so we can at least give them time to queue in and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Sister Libby. What? Yeah, it's better.
You notice the difference?
A little bit, yeah. Seems better. Hi, Sister Libby. Okay, thank you.
Good to see everyone.
Good to see you, sis.
Sister Libby, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. This is such a great opportunity for all of us to get together.
Yes, it sure is.
It's kind of fun when you know everyone on the list here too.
Exactly. It's called community.
That's right.
All right, there's Councilmember Hansen. Good morning.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
We are streaming live to YouTube right now, just a quick heads up, and we're still waiting on 1 or 2 more guests, and then we will start to let the press in.
Tell me when, Andrew.
Well, we're currently streaming, right, Andrew?
Yeah, it is live on YouTube,
Yeah.
but we're still waiting on the press isn't in yet, and we're still waiting on Alan Warren and Councilmember Guetta.
So
So
let's give it, yeah, it's top of the hour right now. Let's give it 5 minutes, okay? And then we'll kick it off. When are you going to let the reporters in, Andrew?
shortly, I've got Madeline giving me an email right now, so hang on just 1 second. Let me refresh.
Alan's asking about his link, Andrew.
I'm resending them both right now.
Okay.
Eric Garris says he can't get in, so.
Alan Warren's here.
Yeah, they have a link.
Good morning.
Good morning, Alan.
I see Bob and I see Mark and I see Crystal. I see Marilyn, buddy, Sister Libby. Wow, that's a big presser. Steve is here.
I'm here, Alan.
There he is. I can see. There you go, Steve. I need a still shot like yours. Oh, there you go. I can see you live now.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and start letting in the press. I just connected with Eric's staff, so they should have everything they need. They should be able to join momentarily. And do ask that if you're not speaking, go ahead and mute, because there is a lot of background noise at the moment. Here, go ahead and give it about a minute, and then we can get started. All the press is joining right now. Okay, that looks like everyone.
Great. You want to kick it off, Mayor?
Yes. All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for a very important announcement. I'm Darrell Steinberg. I'm privileged to be the mayor of Sacramento, and I am joined by a number of my colleagues who I will introduce, together with leaders of the homeless advocacy community here in Sacramento, people who have worked and fought for a long time to do everything in their power and to push us to do everything in our power to help get people off of the streets. I want to welcome specifically council members Eric Guetta, Steve Hansen, and Alan Warren. And I want to do a thank you shout out to council member Jeff Harris, who has been a leading voice on the tiny home movement and on homelessness in general, who could not be with us today. And I want to welcome all of the leaders from Safe Ground, Sacramento, who you'll be hearing from in a few minutes. I want to kick it off and make the announcement, and then I will turn it over to my colleagues and to our community partners. Project Roomkey, over these past number of months, the collaboration between the county, the city, and the community to bring unsheltered homeless people into motel rooms has demonstrated to me a clear lesson. The lesson is this: it does not have to take 9 months, 12 months, or 15 months to bring homeless people indoors. And while I'm proud of what the county and the city have done, not just these past months, but through many of our continuing efforts, shelter and permanent housing efforts over these past years, it is clear to me that government does not have to organize, build, and or operate all of the solutions. Safe ground has been a rallying cry for a long time. It is time to harness the power of the community and to say, yes, here is our opportunity. We have been trying to find a way, at least since I became mayor, to launch a tiny home movement in Sacramento. And what are tiny homes? There are a variety of different models that provide a roof, 4 insulated walls, a front door, safety and dignity for people who get to move indoors. They can be manufactured relatively inexpensively, and they can be built quickly. We have not made much progress as of yet on our effort to make tiny homes of a variety of types part of our homeless strategy. So today I propose the following: that the City Council bring a resolution to our membership very soon, and that we authorize the city manager to purchase up to 500 a variety of tiny homes. The city would take these homes and we would provide or voucher, if you will, these units to community groups like Safe Ground, to faith organizations, to anybody who was willing to help bring people indoors, 10 to 15 to 20 at a time. The principle behind our providing these homes would be to respect and to elevate the concept of self-governance for these communities that we would help site throughout Sacramento. What would the city do besides and in addition to providing the inventory, the homes themselves? We would be full partners with Safe Ground and with other community organizations to help find the sites, because we recognize that the infrastructure, the housing is key, but there are significant impediments in finding sites, and we need to be your partners. The city would also, per my proposal and resolution, would agree to provide garbage and trash pickup, potable water, so that there is clean and safe drinking water, and some form of dignified restroom facilities. Now, all kinds of questions. Well, would you require a hookup, electricity and or sewage hookup? Would you not? I don't want the city to overly regulate here. I think we have to be partners in terms of siting. We need to provide the basics. We need to provide the housing. But the whole concept here is to allow as much of this as possible to be community driven. For when we match the community energy that has been demonstrated by Safe Ground and by so many others in the community, with some of the other important things that we are doing, like continuing to build low barrier triage shelters, South Sacramento, WX under the freeway, Grove, continuing plans to do more of that, and drive to keep people from becoming homeless and build more permanent housing. The combination of all of it will give us an opportunity to be able to get more people off the streets and and live in ways that are safe, that are dignified. So what I am calling for is self-governance, Safe Ground with roofs. And I'm so pleased that we're able to be together here today. I want to turn it over to Mark Marin first before I turn it over to my colleagues for some brief comments. But Mark, you have been a partner, sometimes a respected adversary of the city, but we arrived today at a place where we are coming together to launch this new initiative. And I want to thank you for your leadership. Mark?
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Steinberg. You're right. We've been working on safe ground for more than a decade now. And the principle is that people who are living outside need safety and security. They also need an opportunity to be able to move from an initial place where they have that safety and security into permanent housing. And that's what we see. We see this as a first step, but we're very pleased that that you and your colleagues are calling or intending to call upon the city manager to purchase an improvement over the tents, which are now the main housing for over 5,000 people in Sacramento. If they can move into tiny houses in whatever configuration they may be, that's going to be an incredible improvement. But the self-governing will allow them to develop more responsibility and feeling of self-respect, and allow them to assist each other in moving forward. But it has to be with the support of the city. You mentioned several things that the city, that you'll recommend the city provide. In addition to that, there obviously has to be some ongoing support. We're going to need staffing to assist the members of the community. We're going to need, I think the shelter crisis that's been declared can be revised and amended so that there'll be immunity from lawsuits for negligence or other things that might happen in these communities. Safe Ground as an organization, together with its partners, remained committed to assisting in the establishment of these diverse communities. We encourage all organizations, whether they're faith-based or community organizations or even private individuals who may have sites in mind, to come forward and say, yes, we're willing to do this in partnership with the organizations that have been advocating for Safe Ground for years. And as you can see from the other members who have assisted in the construction and development of the Safe Ground that now exists at 12th and C in Sacramento, we have diversity, we have commitment, we have energy, and we're prepared to move together with the city and hopefully with the county as well to make a dent in the population of homeless people now on the streets and increase the number of alternative housing models that are available and move toward permanent housing for all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mark. Let me begin with my colleagues. I'll go down the row here by district. Councilmember Alan Warren, who has long advocated for this kind of solution. Councilmember Warren, I thank you for your advocacy and welcome you this morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and to everybody who has joined and are listening in. You know, I think this is a big step for our city. I think obviously we all recognize that this is a crisis, and a lot of people have ideas about how to do it. I think as we had talked earlier, the tents have offered some form of relief. I think the tiny home structures will be an enhancement, an obvious enhancement to the availability of housing in our region. And then I think ultimately we all continue to strive for permanent housing and a better way of life for all of Sacramento. And so I just think this is a really big step for the city, with Mayor, with your leadership, because, you know, if we really want to have the impacts that we all say we do, we need to be rowing in the same direction. And when you show your kind of leadership to make this kind of thing happen, it puts a lot of wind in our sail as a city. And I think it goes without saying to know also that the city manager and the council, along with the folks that have been advocating, Bob, who I've known and worked with on this stuff for years, and Mark, who I've met with a number of times and talked to, have been strong advocates, and all of the other advocates, some of which I've personally met and talked to, and others. But this is the kind of possibility when we allow government, or essentially have government get out of the way and allow private industry, private sector, nonprofits, and everybody work on it. And then the city or the government can step in to help provide the necessary resources to make this reality come true. Then I think we are off and running. And so I definitely have some ideas, not for this call or this presser, but I have some ideas. I've also identified opportunities in District 2 for potential sites, some of which Bob knows, Steve Waters knows, I think Mark probably knows as well. And as you know, we've already taken a big step with Grove Avenue and some tiny homes there that are sheltering emancipated youth. And so we're on board, and we'll roll up our sleeves to do what we can in District 2 to help make as many of these types of housing options available for those that are unhoused. So thank you for the opportunity to work and support. And yes, I will continue to be a huge advocate for this type of housing for our unhoused people. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan. We'll go back and forth here. We need some gender diversity here. So I'm going to ask Crystal and our sister Libby to weigh in next, please.
Thank you. We really appreciate that you guys are open to this idea. We have been pushing for safe ground for a while. The self-governance is very important. The way I look at it for people who tend to have some concern is that it's the same idea as living in your own neighborhoods. You want your freedom in your neighborhoods to be safe, to have dignity. And so again, we appreciate what you guys are bringing to the table, and we look forward to working with you guys on this.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for bringing us all together today. I think that for the people watching, they'll recognize the uniqueness of this moment. Although for the last 6 weeks, I've been working with Mr. Marin, Paula, Sister Libby, and others on bringing tiny homes in the form of pallet shelters to Sacramento and helping them hopefully find an alternative location. But there's some good news and some challenges still out there, and I'd just like to touch on those two things. On the good news side, we have ordered 10 pallet shelters serving up to 14 individuals that should be arriving in Sacramento in the next couple weeks. On the challenging side, Mark and the Safe Ground folks and I have been looking at various sites to put a facility that will be able to meet all the different needs of Safe Ground and bring the intensive services. That continues to be a big challenge. So I just want to thank Council Members Warren and Guerra for being on today. Councilmember Warren has been a strong leader on this front for a long time. And he mentioned the Grove Avenue shelter, which the city has worked with SHRA and Councilmember Warren on. And I think that is a prototype, just like Safe Ground itself is. I am excited to work on this proposal, not just with the city folks, but in particular with the people from the community who think that this can be an important option in solving homelessness. I also know that as we work together, there are going to be a lot of different challenges, but if we continue with the best interests of those who are experiencing homelessness and in trying to provide high quality services in collaboration with them, I know we're going to not only house a lot of people, but do a lot of good in the meantime. And so I just am grateful for the opportunity to participate in this. And hopefully we can continue to break down not just the bureaucratic walls that divide us, but also some of the challenges where we don't always know that we can work together. So I'm excited to try to see this through with you, Mayor, and with the people on the press conference.
Thank you so much, Steve, for your hard work. Bob Erlenbush or Joe Smith or Paula or Sister Libby?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go. First of all, Mayor Steinberg, I must say thank you. This is such a historical moment since Safe Ground back in 2009. And you've been steadfast with your passion for homelessness issues since then. So this is a really heads up to you, to all the city council members, from Steve to Warren to Jeff to Guerra. All of you have had supportive moving forward for Safe Ground movement. And I think I just want to highlight one specific thing to carry on what Mark Marin was saying. This can work with a self-governing community, but we do need, I would say, one director or staff member assigned to each community so that they can work on the logistics, the advocacy, the organization with those participants in the site and the neighbors and the nonprofits and the city. And it takes one person to organize it, and hundreds of volunteers will follow with that. So I think we're on a right move with one added thing is a paid staff member to organize each community. Thank you all.
Thank you. We will work out all of the details. You know, I think it's important to get started with a commitment to partner on sites and with a commitment from the city to provide the inventory, the homes themselves, and to embrace the principle of self-governance and safe ground. And we will make all of these projects a big success. Councilmember Guetta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think you took some of the wind off my sail there, but I wanted to say, I think that the importance about this is that we're using the economy of scale of the city to go out and purchase a number of these homes. Every site will have a different demand. And I think making sure that we have the flexibility to be able to address those issues. Some communities may be able to have the water and utility and infrastructure to bring in a manufactured home, even something as quick as that can be built in 18 days of a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. But some may have a more expensive situation where the pallet homes or the tiny homes fit that area. And so I think having the diversity of that is going to also signal to people who construct these that there's a demand from the city. And so Sacramento will be the leader in this, where other cities could start looking at saying, could we purchase more homes? That I think will also drive the cost further down in other places, and particularly in some areas of the city. I know in my council district, we have very limited amount of public land, but also allowing private landowners to say, I've got a piece of land that we can use. Then that allows us to go out there and help and assist them so that the burden isn't only on someone who has that land. So I think this is a good balance. It allows us to have multiple types of products, whether it be tiny pallet homes, manufactured homes. And I know our city has already been working on how can we look at purchasing a large number of manufactured homes and working at on different sites and locations. One place that we've already looked at is a vacant lot at the St. John's facility to see if we can't use that area for manufactured homes. And we're looking for other places that have the ability to bring in this new efficiency type of housing. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all of this approach to try to look at something new to get more people housed in something that's dignified housing.
Thank you so much, Eric. We want to make sure that we turn it over for questions of the press, but I know we've got Joe, I've got Bob. Bob Erlenbush never has much to say, so I know it's...
Well, just thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your leadership on this important issue, and to the city council members who have stepped up to have tiny homes, self-governed homes in their district, and especially to Mark for your leadership over the last 10 years on this issue. Just a couple of points. I want to underscore what Mark said. If we declare a shelter crisis, a shelter emergency, it allows us to do a couple of things, primarily to waive a lot of the siding issues so we don't have to have endless city council hearings about siding and all the rest of it. So I think that's critical. I would like to introduce something new to this, is that if the city's going to purchase up to 500 homes, it would be great to couple a homeless employment program, hire homeless people with lived experience to help build the homes. I think that's important. I also think it's important that we've got 5 other city council members, districts, that these be equitably distributed in all 8 city council districts, so that everybody, every community shares the success of housing people, our homeless neighbors. And finally, Mayor, in particular, I know that you know that we do, the coalition does a homeless deaths report every year. Over the last 17 years, we've lost almost 1,100 people experiencing homelessness. Creating up to 500 homes will go a long way to saving lives. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else before we turn it over to the press? Joe Smith. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for being a leader on this new project. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what I think. I lived outside here before I was the advocacy director for Loaves and Fishes. I lived out on the streets of Sacramento for 5.5 years, and to live outside is a traumatic, trying experience. Every moment you're awake, every moment you're asleep, you're in survival mode. You have to worry about the safety being around other people. You have to worry about the safety of your belongings. You can't leave once you do find a place to set up a camp, you can't walk away from it because everything you own could be gone when you get back. So to have a safe, dignified place to call home offers people an opportunity to breathe and to begin to start to assess where they're at in their life, and the things with the proper help, they can begin to start accomplishing goals and they could turn their life around. Now, I personally know the folks that are on the 12th and C site right now. I've been working with them for years here at Loaves and Fishes. And I can tell you that when I go visit them today, their whole demeanor, the look on their face, they're able to breathe, they're able to relax, they have a place to call home. I think Sacramento is in store for something really exciting. I think we're going to get to see something really beautiful happen here. We're going to get to see community as a whole rise up to an occasion and help a whole lot of people. And to have it done in this way with a self-governing society, they have ownership. We all have ownership. This is something that's not about being housed or unhoused. We're a community together and we have a chance to lift each other up. And so, again, thank you for having us today and being a leader here in this initiative.
Thank you, Joe. So I'm just going to make one last comment, turn it over to the press. I think that sometimes it does take a while for forces to converge. And maybe today what we have are two forces converging. One is this incredible advocacy that you have all shown from the community around the idea of self-governance, around the idea of giving people a place to be and live where they have support and community as hopefully they transition out of homelessness completely. The other force, in my humble opinion, has been this call that frankly I have made for not just at the local level, but at the state level through my chairmanship, co-chairmanship of the governor's task force. And that is to say that in a civil society, we should be providing the opportunity for everyone to have a roof over their heads. And it's the combination of the two that I think bring us to this day. And it's very exciting. Now the work is just beginning, as Councilmember Hanson and others have said. We've got to actually be proactive about finding sites, as Steve is working on with Mark Marin. They do have to be distributed throughout our city. We need to show that this works and that whatever negative stereotype that people might have about what this quote looks like or what this will be just isn't the case. And that it's much better to get people indoors with support than it is to leave people in the conditions that people live in the elements with the statistics that Bob Erlenbush mentioned a moment ago. We need to end your ritual anniversary commemoration. We need to end it. Let's turn it over to the press. Thanks.
All right, first up is Andy Judson from ABC 10. Go ahead, Andy.
Andy?
Hi, thank you for taking my question. So Councilmember Harris previously told me he doesn't believe self-governing encampments like this work for a long period of time because he said, quote, that's when really bad behavior happens. I also know that Hanson was previously trying to find a new location for Safe Grounds community in his district. And I know Harris isn't here to comment on this, but I'm wondering if you, Mayor, or other city leaders can comment on the change to these previous stances. I've been covering this for a while and it seems to be a really like a coming together point between city leaders and activists. So I'm just wondering if you can comment on, this moment of really working together. And sorry, this is a two-parter. I'm also wondering if these types of self-governing sites are also being welcomed into all districts under all council members.
Well, you have to talk to, I won't speak for any council members. You do have 3 on the call here today. They can speak for themselves and their districts. I think I described a moment ago why this is a moment of coming together. It is the combination of the safe ground, advocacy, and push, combined with the passion and push from my colleagues around deploying these innovative housing solutions that have been grossly underdeployed. I mean, why should we have to wait for years to pay $400,000 to subsidize a single unit of affordable housing? And why on the other end should our only option be these low barrier triage shelters, which I'm in big support of, that take 14 months to construct? We've got to have more solutions if we're gonna get people indoors and off the streets. And government cannot do it all top down. And so you find in politics, the great moments are when you find these intersections. And I think we're finding it here today, and I'm fully behind this. Intend to push it. I just got reelected. I'm going for another 4+ years. We're going to push this. And yes, it should be spread out throughout the city. I'm not going to speak for all my colleagues, though. That's for them. But that's why we're in the moment we're at. Mark Maron, you want to make a statement about that?
Yes, I think that the self-governing aspect is something that has not been fully appreciated. You know from your own experience that when people are given responsibility, they develop more quickly, and their self-respect is enhanced, and the idea that each person will provide some assistance to the others. And rather than having somebody from the outside shake their finger and say, no, you can't do this, you have to do that, it's better if it comes internally. Then people respect whatever rules they develop. So that's why it's so important. And I suspect that these communities will be turning to the city and the county and saying, we could use a little assistance in the mental health area, or we have some other needs, some job training things. We'd like some assistance there. I think we're going to find that this is a spark for a tremendous rejuvenation in the city, and that people will be moving out of homelessness into various other possibilities. Maybe they'll form groups and rent apartments together. Maybe others will step forward and say, let's see what kind of cooperative housing we can develop. So I'm very hopeful that this will be the spark for something new and great.
Mayor, I'd just like to jump in real quick. I think something that some of us know on this call is that while it appears to some in the press that we have a lot of adversarial relationships, truly, Mark is a neighbor. He could probably, if I stepped out my front door, see me from his house. Paula is a neighbor. And many of the people we're talking about here who are unhomed are also neighbors. And as I represent the Central City, many of my residents, including me, know folks by name who have struggled to get into the stability that Joe talked about of shelter. It's why the mayor and the city council have spent so much time and energy over the past 4 or 5 years trying to realign these systems, trying to restructure them to bring support. And what's been very hard, and I think it's implicit here, is that these systems are so slow to change that we are now trying new forms of innovation. While Safe Ground has been an idea around for a long time, and I indeed have been paying close attention to it, I think that the opportunity to bring in tiny homes, to work with churches and nonprofits and others to site locations that are self-governed, but I think where we can provide a floor of services and support under those communities, I think it's a very unique opportunity. And despite the fact that sometimes we may have spirited and well-intentioned debates, it is time for us to continue to try everything at our disposal. And this is certainly another step in that direction. But in the end, tiny homes and safe ground aren't the only solution. And it is got to be one piece of an overall comprehensive strategy. The city, the county, the state, and the federal government have to be at the table so we stop people from falling into homelessness in the first place. And we help those who are experiencing homelessness find shelter, support, and the home of their own choosing. So I think this is another step in that direction. And I really applaud everybody for joining today in what is an adventure in trust building and in faith in each other as neighbors.
Thank you.
Now, I would say on that piece that every governance model will be different based on that organization, based on what entity wants to take it on, and what is the difference between a neighborhood association and a self-governance model. I mean, what neighborhood associations do is try to resolve issues within their neighbors and then pull together a common issues to bring to their local elected leaders. The point here, I think, is more about that the city's taking an active effort in looking at the housing part of it. I think that is the critical part, making sure that it is well put together, that it's that there's healthy standards put in place, and with flexibility to work with the organizations that want to do it.
Thank you. Let's get more questions from the press here. Go ahead. Who's next, Andrew?
Next up is Teresa Cliff from the Sacramento Bee.
Hi, Teresa.
Hey, everyone. I understand this is a moment of coming together with the city officials and the activists here on this issue. But my question is about the current site at 12th and C. Back last month when that opened, the city attorney threatened some legal action. What's the current status of that site? Is that site going to be allowed to stay open? Is it going to be tents? Is it going to be tiny homes? Are you guys looking for other sites to replace that site? Mayor, are you supporting that site? I know Steve's raised questions about it, but if you guys could just touch on that site, that'd be great. Thanks.
Steve, do you want me to take that or do you want to?
I'll just start. And, I think that the conversation continues. Mark and I did a tour. He was in his car and I was in my car. And as Teresa has been told, we looked at about 8 sites. We have found a difficult challenge. And so there's a call to action here for the public watching. The property owners whose sites were the most amenable to working together on a safe ground type community using the pallet shelters, they were challenged to figure out how they would do it because of their fears of liability, et cetera, despite the city and the community kind of coming together to support it. And so I think we do have a challenge. We are still working on an alternative site. And to answer the question very clearly, Teresa, I have asked that the city attorney and our staff not do enforcement on the current site as far as disbanding it until we have an alternative. And I know that Mark and Sister Libby and the other members of the Safe Ground Board have in good faith been working with us on that. Until we find an alternative site, I think that this just continues to underscore the biggest challenge here, which is getting the trust and support of not only the property owners, but some of the communities around to make sure that the sites are good. It's not lost on Mark or anyone else that it's been over 100 degrees and those tents are getting pretty hot there in the full sun. So if we had the pallets at least, which come with air conditioning as well as heat, windows that open and close, doors that lock, as well as beds and other basic things that you can't even call amenities, but just basic support for survival and with shelter, that we would be much further along. And so I call on the property owners out there, the churches, the nonprofits, some of the businesses that have great sites to work with us. Until we have them, we're not going to probably make the progress we need. And then we'll also need the support. I don't remember if it was, I think it was Bob said hundreds of volunteers will show up to support. And I do think that's true. We saw it when the program was started in the winter with churches. Volunteers came all over to provide sanctuary to people to get them out of the cold. And we have a very giving community who wants to help solve this problem, but it can't be solved just by the purchase of the homes. I think it has to be solved by working together on all these aspects.
I want to make a prediction here. With this announcement and our agreement to partner with the community in finding sites, I predict that numerous sites will come forward much faster than they have previously. I know that Alan Warren alluded to it. Others have talked about it. We will find sites. There are sites out there. There are people, there are faith groups, there are community groups that want to do this. And we will be in a position to be able to provide the homes, not tents, but actual homes for people.
Next up is Andy Judson with another follow-up.
Hi, yeah, thank you for taking another question. Mayor Steinberg, I know this is off topic, but just while we have you, I'm wondering if you can comment on schools reopening, what your thoughts are, and whether Sacramento is exploring other ways to reopen in a safe way.
Well, I know that there are ongoing discussions going on between our various between and among our various school districts, between the school districts and their collective bargaining representatives to talk about what is safe. I would anticipate that they are going to go slowly and appropriately so when it comes to students actually being back in the physical space in the schools. And that we are going to have at least some significant element of continued distance learning. And hopefully everyone has learned from the experience with very little preparation time over these last couple of months, and that the distance learning itself can be improved in ways that will help ensure that students get as much of a full education experience as possible. My hope is that eventually during the school year that students will be able to go back to school, and maybe they'll find a way to bring students back right away, but in small numbers. But I'm worried about the increasing numbers, and I would not expect necessarily that we're going to see a lot of students back in the physical school setting at the beginning of the year.
Okay, do we have any other press questions, Andrew?
No press questions in the queue, but Janice and Bob both had an additional comment that they wanted to make.
Yeah, that's great. Anybody that has any wrap-up comments, go now.
Hi, thank you, Mayor and Councilmen, for this wonderful opportunity for all of us. I was wondering if you might consider a way to make property owners and businesses be more amenable to opening safe grounds near them or on their property by maybe offering some kind of incentive or some way to honor them for their generosity, or make it a positive for the neighborhood to have a safe ground.
I think that's a great suggestion. I think we ought to consider that, right? How do we incentivize property owners to want to do this? But let's think about that. Let's make that part of the agenda when we bring this before the City Council. Thank you.
This is Mark. I just wanted to add that there was a question about the continuation of the activity on 12th and C. I think one of the things that we have felt is that people have to see these communities in action to really understand that they do work, and they're not a blight on the neighborhood, but rather can uplift the neighborhood. So whether the people who are presently in the site, in the tents on the sites, get to move elsewhere to improve conditions or not, I think that we'll probably want to have some kind of activity on 12th and C, maybe as a welcoming center, for instance, for people who are moving into the other communities, maybe as a place where events occur that continue to demonstrate to the city that safe ground is a positive force for our community, and certainly assists people in getting off the street into something better. Thank you.
Well, good. Meryl, yeah, last comment. Meryl Axelrod, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I really appreciate the sense of urgency that you're bringing to this right now, Mayor. It doesn't take months and months. This particular project at 12th and C, we had our first meeting, I think it was 1 week before the lockdown. And even with the lockdown, we managed to get this thing up and running in a matter of weeks. And it's running, it's functioning, and it is a wonderful example of how a community can come together quickly. I also would like to mention that the catalyst for this was Janice and another woman, Robin, installing portable sanitary facilities, porta potties, on North B Street. And one of the things that we've discussed that could happen at the same time and is equally urgent is to consider installing porta potties throughout the city, not just for the homeless, for anyone to use. They're very, very inexpensive. They provide a real need. They wouldn't be a nuisance if we had enough of them. Just a thought.
Okay, thank you. I think we're gonna have a lot of time to be able to talk about the elements here. I just we got one more comment, Crystal, and then we're gonna close this. Go ahead, Crystal.
Okay, so what I just wanted to basically say is this isn't just about tiny homes. This is about progress. Shelter is a key component for safety. It's space and it's access, but it's access to things like triaging jobs, documentation, recovery, self-sufficiency to end homelessness. And these are things that people at this point do not have access to. And so this is very good.
Couldn't agree more. The roof, a roof is just a beginning, but it's a necessary beginning. And again, thank you all. So in terms of, we will agendize this probably August, early August, and we will give the city manager this authorization, but we will begin working now on trying to find some sites and launching in a way that is meaningful. I thank you all for your time today and for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.